Today we're going to talk about pigeon or Ekapada Rajakapatasana. What? So Ekapada Rajakapatasana means Ekapada, Eka meaning one, Pada meaning foot, Raja meaning king, Kapatasana meaning pigeon. So the full pose is a big puffing of the chest in that pigeon feel of it. So Ekapada Rajakapatasana is king pigeon. Now there are a lot of variations that I'm going to do today. I'm going to do about 5 variations if I can get it together and do all 5 of them in 12 minutes. And within each variation are some modifications. So I'm going to talk you through it. It is a hip opener, but the full pose is actually a back bend. There are some modifications to help you with your knees. If you have knee injuries, I'm going to give you that. If you have back injuries for the full pose, you're going to not do it to the full extent of the pose. So a lot of what I'm going to talk to you about in the beginning, you're going to use throughout all of the class poses that we do. So Ekapada, one-footed, Raja, king, Kapatasana, pigeon pose. Asana always means pose. You'll always see it at the end of the names of every pose. So if you ever have knee injuries and you have tight hips, you're going to do something called thread the needle. This is always a variation whenever you hear someone saying, now it's time for pigeon in class or a hip opener. You're going to be on your back and you're going to have your feet hip distance apart. You're going to cross an ankle over the knee. This one is right ankle over left knee. Always flex your foot in this pose. So flexing the foot helps to protect the knee. You're going to widen the knee towards the front of the room. So that's variation 1 of thread the needle. Variation 2, if you have a little bit more open hips, is you're going to interlace your fingers behind the back of the leg, threading one arm through, hence thread the needle. Pushing that leg into the hands, opening that right knee towards the front, still flexing that right foot. You can also take that left leg up to the sky. So that's variation 1. Always an option whenever a teacher says, go into pigeon pose, go onto your backs if you have knee issues. I also like this version where you can sit and do the same thing. It makes it a little bit more challenging. So if you're going up and down, going on your back is maybe not always effective. Again, flexing the foot, crossing it over the knee. You can walk your hands forward or walk your front foot forward, and it makes it very challenging. I also like to move a little bit side to side in this pose. So again, opening the knee, externally rotating that thigh bone in the hip socket, flexing the foot to protect the knee. You're going to do it every single time. So that is variation 2 of Ekapada Rajakapatasana. Those are options. We're going to get to the real pose at the end. A standing pigeon, you'll often hear people say, or one-legged chair pose. Crossing that ankle over the knee, and it's called one-legged chair pose because you're in a chair position. That booty is reaching back, the knee is bent. Now, with the booty reaching back, I want you to rotate that thigh bone open, widening that knee out to the floor. Flexing the foot, again, to protect the knee. Sitting back as deeply as you can. Now, some people will call the next pose flying pigeon. It really isn't. But because they call it flying pigeon, I'm going to show it to you anyway. It's called Ekapada Galavasana, which is not at all a pigeon pose. But I'm going to show it to you anyway because some people like to call it flying pigeon. I'm just going to show it. I'm not going to describe it. There you go. Flying pigeon. Not really called that. It's called Ekapada Galavasana. Okay, so that's option number 2. Okay? You can do a lot of twists and things in that standing pigeon pose. You can bring it over to the side. It's always a transition for me going into other standing balance poses. Okay? So another way to get your hips open and challenge yourself while balancing. So you have the variation, very gentle. You'll see that a lot in gentle poses, gentle classes where you're on your back. You can be seated or you can be standing. Now, Ekapada Rajakapatasana. So a bunch of variations here. So what you want to do is start on hands and knees. This is a great way to get into it. You're going to take, I'm going to do the right leg first. You're going to take the right knee towards the right wrist. Okay, so I'm widening already. I'm already externally rotating that thigh bone in the hip socket. And my left leg is going to be straight behind me. Now my right heel, we used to say that shin needs to be parallel with the front of the mat. I think that's really tough on the knee. I don't say that anymore, and I don't think many other people do either. the important thing is to get that knee wider than the hip, and the heel is going to go more towards your opposite hip point. Now, again, if you're flexing the foot, that ankle is going to come away from the mat, and that's something just to protect that knee, particularly if you feel this in the knee when you go into this pose. Your hip points are both pointing down, maybe a little forward, but they're not going off to the side, and this is what happens a lot. So you might need a blanket or a pillow to get underneath that butt. That's if your right hip is off the mat, okay? You want to support that right hip. So put something under it, a block or a blanket. Mine goes down, so I don't need it. The other way I get into it deeper is I take those back feet, curl that toe under, and then walk it back. That allows those hips to come down a little bit more. So the knee is wide, the heel is towards the opposite hip point. I am inside of that knee. I'm flexing the foot to protect the knee, and I'm going to come down. Okay, so a lot of times at the end of class, you'll see teachers just say, okay, now just chill out. And then you can relax, okay? Make sure that you're not dumping into that right hip, that both hips are pointed towards the mat. Okay, so I'm going to switch sides just to give love to the other hip. Now, there's a couple variations that you can do in this pose. So you can obviously plop down. The other variation is you're going to lift up a little bit in this pose. So instead of plopping down, you see my tailbone going straight back, my pelvis is tipping forward. For the next pose, you want to come a little bit more upright. The pelvis is lifted, the tailbone's more reaching down. You got to squeeze in, and that's why I even come up away from the floor a little bit. Squeeze in. It's a lot more off balance, okay? So I may fall. Don't judge. So you're going to squeeze the legs towards one another, lift the belly, and you're going to bend that back knee, and you're going to reach back for that foot, okay? That's only if you find balance here, and that may be enough for you. It may be enough just to dump down and not worry about this part of the pose. So you're going to reach back for that back foot towards a quad stretch. Now, squeezing in will give you a little bit more stability, and you can reach that left arm up to the sky, the opposite arm, because I'm going to switch sides again, because this is my stronger side. So I'm reaching back for the foot. The other arm is up towards the sky, squeezing in nice and tight. So this is pretty. Another variation is to get that foot into the elbow, reach back. We call this mermaid pose because you kind of lean back. But you can see that my chest is starting to puff like a pigeon. The final pose, the actual Ekapada Rajakapatasana, I need a strap for because I'm not warmed up at all. I'm going to take the strap around the bottom of my foot, my back foot. I'm squeezing in nice and tight. I got to rotate my arms around so that my elbows are pointing towards the sky. Squeezing in tight for balance, reaching back. Now, the full pose is I'm going to grab my toe. Not feeling that today, and that's okay, but I'm still going to find the back bend, and I'm going to walk my hands towards my feet as much as I can. I'm going to gently release and come on down. Ekapada Rajakapatasana 1. Hope you have a great day, you guys. You can check this out on Balance Webster YouTube page where all of the 12 series is going to live. Take care.